Thanks a lot for coming in.
Good morning, happy to be here.
Something about this community appeals to you?
This is a wonderful place to live.
For Kelowna Now, this is Camp Mulgat.
And we're joined by Brea Lake, the new CEO of Accelerate Okanagan. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you for having me.
So apparently, Accelerate Okanagan's board looked at 120 applicants, and they ended up going with what they already had.
Yeah. I feel pretty lucky that that was it. It was a long process. We started about 9 months ago, like in early February, and they took the time consulting with the community to get a good perspective of what the community wanted, what entrepreneurs in our ecosystem needed, and then from that strategy went on and actually posted the job. So that happened this summer.
Wow. So, but as the acting CEO, and then they look at 120 other people, you must be thinking like, wow, they're trying hard to replace me.
Yeah. I feel like it was touch and go there for a bit. But I think I just had the mindset that I have to focus on my day-to-day. If I'm the right candidate, that will come out.
Right.
And I'm so passionate about what we do as an organization that I said, if there's someone more qualified, why wouldn't I want to learn from them and have them come into our organization and lead it?
Right, so if you didn't get it, whoever did get it would have been fantastic.
Yeah.
Okay, one thing that for sure that Accelerate Okanagan gets out of this is someone who's super local. I mean, you know this city, right?
Yes, yeah. So I wasn't born here, but definitely grew up here in the Okanagan in Summerland, and stayed local and went to Okanagan College here. And I think throughout that experience, I got to see what is that Okanagan perspective. And then over my career now, working at Disney's Interactive here, and then in the tech community for a number of years, I was able to build lasting relationships to start to understand how can we leverage those relationships to support the founders and companies we work with.
So I think this is a great chance for people who some of them have a rough idea of what Accelerate Okanagan or Okanagan Tech, is like you guys like to call it, what it is, but explain it to people who still don't get it, and you could maybe include me as one of them sometimes.
So Accelerate Okanagan, we really exist to help companies start and grow their businesses. We started primarily focused on technology companies, but as we know, tech is now an enabler of so many different types of businesses, so we see a little bit of everything under the sun that walks through our doors. And really, the Okanagan tech branding and the Okanagan tech industry is what's happening at large. So it's about a $1.7 billion industry here that has an annual impact, and about 12,000 workers working in the tech industry right now.
So how does it work? Someone's got the beginnings of a business and they're really not sure where to go, and they come walking in the door, like about, how many have done this? A couple of hundred?
Yes, exactly.
And so what happens? What do you do for them?
Yeah, so typically we always say if you have any idea that you're wanting to start a business, first stop, come by our doors, because we can help you to navigate where you should go next depending on what stage you're at. And so typically it starts with a one-on-one meeting to understand how far they are with their idea. Do they already have a product? Have they have a few customers or sales? And then based on that, we tailor a program to them to get them paired up with a mentor that has been there and done that before. So they've sold and grew a business before, and so they're speaking from their real world experience and mentoring that company onto that next stage.
And you have a good supply of mentors who thrive on doing this?
We do, yeah. So we're currently, our roster, we're sitting at 12 mentors that are contracted with us. And then we have another list of about 20 to 25 mentors that are subject matter experts that we pull in on an occasional basis to help with the companies as well.
So what does that look like? So they're paired up with a mentor, the one that kind of best fits the sector that they're interested in. And then they have occasional meetings, or?
Yeah, so typically, especially in the early stages, it's a lot of one-on-one meetings with your mentor. And so you'd meet once a week or once every 2 weeks, and you have goals that you've set out on a quarterly basis, and you're sitting down making sure you're hitting those goals and also moving your business forward. So there's some core competencies every business needs to go through, and so you're learning that foundational business knowledge as well as hitting the targets that you've set out for your individual company.
Okay, so do we really have a tech cluster in Kelowna, or are we just like any city of our size? Tech is kind of where the world is going. And so are we not just the way things are in today's marketplace?
Yeah. I am fortunate enough that I get to travel the country quite a bit and visit a lot of tech ecosystems and work with tech accelerators like Accelerate Okanagan. And I have to say what we do have going on here is quite unique. I think we have a lot more entrepreneurs that have that entrepreneurial spirit to start a business.
Right.
And then I also think that we do have certain clusters forming in our region that might not be as prevalent in other communities. So for
Right.
example, because we had Club Penguin here, which was bought out by Disney, we now see more and more gaming and animations companies emerging because
Right.
of the spin-off staff that has since
Right.
moved on.
And as I hear you answering that question, really the question becomes moot. I mean, if other communities have, if they could argue they have the same amount of technical stuff, you still, that doesn't make any difference. You still want to develop a community of businesses that can help each other.
Exactly. And I think you hit the nail on the head there when, yes, we talk about these mentors who've been there and done that help to train the new up-and-coming companies and startups. But I think where the big benefit is being a part of a larger community where you have that peer-to-peer learning, right? So you're learning from someone who's maybe 3 or 4 steps ahead of you and understands the struggles you're going through when you're starting to build a business.
So what are the challenges? What does our community need to do to make things even better for someone who wants to develop a business idea?
Yeah, I think some of the challenges that we keep hearing from the businesses is access to talent, so employees who is going to staff their companies as they continue to scale and grow. And the other one is obviously access to capital, money. So
Right.
how are you going to pay all these individuals that you have to grow? Yes, you're bringing in revenue, but if you really want to pour gasoline on the fire, you need some capital to usually help to get there.
Okay, so you talked about the fact that you've got people willing to mentor, but what about people willing to act as angels? Are there people like that lurking around the outsides watching what you're doing?
Yeah, so we definitely are seeing more and more angels emerge. And I think the definition of what does an angel investor be is they used to think that they needed to be contributing on an annual basis, like maybe $100,000 and plus.
Right.
But what we're finding is if people are willing to start small, so with our Okanagan Angel Summit program, all they have to commit is $5,000 up front, learn the whole process of what it is to go and be an angel investor, and then they can decide going forward how frequently they want to invest, right? And so
Right.
it's about learning that process. But I think today we were just looking before we came over here, and we already have 80 interested angel investors for this year's Angel Summit, where we can only take 30 angels. So I feel
Wow.
like we're starting to see a huge increase where that used to not be the case.
Well, hang on, you're not going to say no to those other 50.
No, we're trying to find other places to plug them in. We're lucky that there's a few other angel groups that already exist here in the Okanagan. So how do we keep them involved on an ongoing basis? And the ones who are maybe more experienced, how
Right.
can they start to train the up-and-coming angels?
So now that you're the CEO, kind of big cheese on duty, do you have a specific vision as to, somewhere that Accelerate Okanagan needs to go from here? The direction you want to grow in? Or?
Yeah, so as I mentioned earlier, we're about a $1.7 billion annual economic impact. I would really like to see in the next 5 years that we actually reach a $5 billion economic impact. So that's very intense growth.
Yes.
Currently, right now, we're growing at about 15% year over year, and that's one of the fastest growing regions in all of the country. But we really want to see that growth take off and kind of match that hockey stick. And so how we're doing that is really putting more focus not on just the startups, so the companies that have the ideas, but how do we help the companies that have already seen some success and are scaling up? How do we
Right.
put more resources behind them? And part of that is solving the talent challenge that we talked about, as well as capital, so that they can raise the money that they need to grow here.
So not just focusing on getting brand new ideas going, but taking the ones that have gotten going
Yeah.
and trying to get them to the next level.
Exactly, yeah. So that they start to become really anchor companies here in our region, right? Start to become household
Right.
names. They can be still selling abroad, but they become one of those dominant players.
Before the interview, we were discussing exactly what is a tech company. And I guess the definition is a little bit loose, but what sorts of companies or what sorts of ideas would you suggest would benefit from coming to Accelerate Okanagan?
So we see a lot of different types of companies. We've seen anything from like advanced manufacturing, companies that have maybe been in business for 10 or 15 years and are looking at ways to streamline their operations. That's something we've been definitely able to help with. Companies that are building their own software and have a lot of coders, developers, engineers. We can definitely help with that type of company. And one that I think is very relevant to our region is agritech. So technology companies that are working in the agricultural space. A lot of times they don't identify with agritech, but there's
Right.
a lot of technology in the sensors that are managing crops here, drones that are flying over and telling if there's different crops that need to be watered more, or if they're going to get done
Right.
with certain weather patterns coming in. So I think it's quite broad what that can encompass, but those are a few examples.
Terrific.
Mm-hmm.
So is there anything else you wanted to bring up? This is your time here, and some people might still be watching this particular segment.
Yeah, I think one of the projects that we started a couple years ago was we actually had Techstars, which is a global tech accelerator in the States. They came up and did an assessment of our community, and they met with a bunch of key stakeholders here in tech and non-tech to figure out how great it is to build a business and be an entrepreneur in the Okanagan. So December 2017, they did a readout of like how do we score on our report card, and we came out, there's 7 levels of a community, and we were at level 3. And so they gave us a list of different areas that we could focus on.
Right.
And one of the big priorities that I see going forward is we really need to hopefully jump and become I would love to see us a Techstars level 5, and there's some key initiatives in there. Some is
Right.
talent and capital, but a lot is how do we work together in a collaborative way to support those entrepreneurs. So how does
Right.
academia, the university and the college play into this strategy,
Right.
And the city and municipalities. And so I think we're still at the start of figuring out what that looks like, but we have very willing parties that are coming to the table to start brainstorming.
I really like the way you responded to that critique, rather than saying, oh, is what we're doing get an A, B, or a C? Instead, you're saying, okay, I can see there's places above where we're at that we can reach for. Right? So,
Exactly, and I think it's having that longer term vision, right, that we have to take the short term vision back from. So
terrific.
Yeah.
All right, Brea Lake,
Great.
thanks very much for coming in and talking
Thank
to us
you.
about it.
Yeah.
And thank you for watching Kelowna Now.